A woman named Maya Millete has been considered missing since 2021. However, recently, both the police and her loved ones believe that this wasn't just a disappearance, but a crime. She loved her children, raised them, and was building her career, but her personal life was far from simple. The reason for all this was her husband, Larry, who was endlessly jealous of her and even physically abused her. Maya Millete was born on May 1st, 1981. A Filipino-American woman, she went missing on January 7th, 2021 in Chula Vista, California. The police investigation into her disappearance is ongoing. Today, I'm going to talk about a case that has remained unsolved for more than 5 years. And even though quite a lot of time has passed, no one still knows exactly where Maya disappeared to. Many people believe that her husband, Larry Millete, was involved in her disappearance. And right now, in May 2026, another trial is underway that should determine whether he is actually guilty or not. Watch the video until the end. Everything most interesting is there. Maya Millete, a Filipino-American, was a civilian employee of the U.S. Navy. Recently, she worked as a contract specialist at the Navy Information Warfare Center. Millete was born in the Philippines but grew up in Honolulu. She graduated from Admiral Arthur Radford High School and then attended and graduated from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Maya met Larry Millete in high school after he moved to Hawaii from San Diego with his family following his 1997 arrest for an assault related to a youth gang. They later got married, and he served in the U.S. Navy for 5 years. They moved to San Diego and had 3 children. By the end of 2020, their relationship had deteriorated, and Larry allegedly became increasingly controlling and paranoid, suspecting Maya of cheating. By December 2020, Maya had decided to divorce Larry and was taking steps to file for divorce. One of Maya's friends claimed that Larry was physically abusive toward her and that she feared for her children's safety. Another friend offered her shelter in their apartment out of concern for her safety. On one hand, I totally get that Maya could have cheated, but even if that's true, the most reasonable thing for Larry to do would be to just get a divorce. Why torment another person and not allow this divorce to happen? After all, you're ruining not only your own life and your wife's, but also your children's lives. So what's the point of that? I'm sure Larry didn't think about that at the time. And that's a key detail in the case, because it's Larry's jealousy that's being linked to Maya's disappearance. On January 7th, 2021, Millete was last seen at the family home around 5 p.m. Earlier that same day, she called a divorce attorney. The next day, surveillance footage captured Larry Millete back in their black Lexus GX 460 into a position where the rear of the vehicle was not visible on camera. Larry claimed that on that day, he took the Lexus to Solana Beach with one of his children. Later, the car was seized by the Chula Vista police. Maya's relatives came to check on her on January 8th, but Larry told them that she had been locked in a room alone since the previous day. When they returned the next morning and insisted that Larry open the door, they found the room empty, and there was no trace of her. Millete's sister, Maricris Drewellet, then filed a missing person report with the Chula Vista Police Department. On January 9th, Larry spoke with a neighbor, saying that he had taken the Lexus to Anza Borrego Desert State Park and asked the neighbor to wash the car. Maya Millete is presumed dead. On January 13th, 2021, volunteers searched for Millete in Mount San Miguel Park. On January 23rd, 2021, investigators searched the Millete home, looking for clues or any evidence that could point to the reason for her disappearance or her possible whereabouts. In January, Maya's relatives hired a private investigator to help with her search. On February 5th, 2021, the Chula Vista Police Department and the Millete family held a briefing to urge the public to help search for her. Skeletal remains were found in Orange County that were initially believed to belong to Millete, but this turned out to be false, and it was later determined that the remains belonged to a man. It was later proven that these were actually animal bones. Additional searches for Maya Millete were carried out by volunteers in February at the Glamis Sand Dunes, in March near Lower Otay Lake, and in May in National City and at an abandoned golf course in Chula Vista. At the end of July, during an event dedicated to Filipino-American Friendship Day, an attempt was made to draw attention to the ongoing search for Maya. At the end of October, searches were conducted near the Salton Sea, Fish Creek, and Glamis. Before his arrest at the end of October, Larry Millete did not participate in any of the searches. In early November, searches returned to the sand dunes of Glamis. In November, the Imperial Gables area was also searched. The search for Maya continued weekly throughout December. On January 8, 2022, a prayer vigil was held to mark the anniversary of Maya Millete's disappearance, and searches continued in January, including the use of drones equipped with ground-penetrating radar. The search for Maya continued into 2022, with searches taking place at least in August and September. All this time, Larry was free. He was only arrested in October 2021, even though, honestly, he was the first person they should have considered. He was the one who should have been suspected in Maya's disappearance. Just think about it, an unstable husband, endlessly jealous, even causing injuries. What else could you expect from him? And then the woman files for divorce and suddenly disappears. It just doesn't make sense. If she wanted to leave her family or start over, she would have just done it. So why would she even need a divorce then? That's exactly why, after dozens, maybe even hundreds of checks, the police concluded that Maya didn't leave home voluntarily and disappear, but that Larry was actually involved in this. On an audio recording made on January 7th, 2021, at around 8:30 p.m. near the Millete home in Chula Vista, 8 loud bangs can be heard. This audio recording, which was given to law enforcement and made public, matches surveillance footage that was not released due to privacy concerns raised by the neighbor who provided the video and audio recordings. Around 10 o'clock p.m., the neighbor's camera recorded audio of the Millete children playing outside in their backyard on a cold night. On April 6, 2021, Maya's disappearance was featured on Good Morning America. The Millete family's attorney, along with her sister and brother-in-law, appeared on Dr. Oz. Phil, on April 12, 2021. In a Dateline NBC article, Maya's disappearance was included in a list of 169 other missing persons. On February 19, 2022, more than a year after Millete's disappearance, the CBS true crime series 48 Hours aired a 1-hour report on her case, hoping that national coverage would lead to some answers. In a January 2021 interview, Larry admitted that he had arguments with Maya in 2020. Starting on February 3, 2021, Larry hired a lawyer and stopped cooperating with the police. In April 2021, reports surfaced that Larry wanted to hire someone to kill the man he suspected Maya was having an affair with. In May 2021, the remaining firearms in Larry's possession were seized by the police under a gun violence restraining order, or GVRO, because of the danger they posed to his children. Reportedly, his children knew the combination to his gun safe, and a photo was presented showing his 4-year-old son standing on a table surrounded by firearms. At the end of July 2021, the Chula Vista Police Department named Larry a person of interest in the case. In September 2021, while the issue with child visitation was still unresolved, Larry made accusations against Maya's family members in an attempt to justify the lack of visitation. On Tuesday, October 19, 2021, Larry Millete was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife, Maya. During a press conference about the arrest, San Diego District Attorney Summer Stephens stated that, at the time of the arrest, Maya Millete's body had not yet been found. The arrest took place after 67 search warrants had been executed and 87 interviews had been conducted. After his arrest, Larry remained in custody and was held without bail. On Thursday, October 21, 2021, Larry pleaded not guilty at a preliminary hearing in the South County Courthouse of San Diego County in Chula Vista. On Thursday, November 4th, Larry was denied bail. The judge cited his previous threats to harm the person he believed was having an intimate relationship with Maya. After that, things turned into a real circus. Larry tries to dodge the law in every way possible. First, his lawyer claims that he's incompetent and that they need a postponement. Then there's an evaluation, which confirms that Larry is actually fine and can stand trial. And then there are 4 more postponements of the court proceedings. Just think about it. The trial that's happening now, in May 2026, was supposed to take place back in 2024. That's how much time they spent on postponements. What was happening at the house where Maya lived during all this? Maybe some very important evidence disappeared from there. Where is the girl herself? And what's the reason for all these delays? These are very important questions in this case, but unfortunately, no one will answer them for us. After Larry's attorney filed a motion in June 2022 claiming he was not competent to stand trial, Larry was examined by a psychiatrist. San Diego Superior Court Judge Cindy Davis later ruled in September 2022 that Larry was mentally competent to stand trial. Preliminary hearings were held in January 2023, after which Judge Dwayne Morning ruled that Larry would stand trial for Maya's murder. Larry will stand trial on charges of murder, as well as illegal possession of a firearm. In September 2024, the judge agreed to postpone the start of the trial to July 7, 2025, after Larry and his attorney requested a delay due to financial difficulties. In April 2025, the judge postponed the trial again until January 2026. In September 2025, the court proceedings were once again postponed, this time until March 9, 2026, which, according to Millete's attorneys, was supposed to be the final delay. However, in January 2026, his lawyers requested yet another postponement, and a new trial date was set for May 11, 2026. And in May, the trial finally took place, and some very important and interesting details about the case came to light. First of all, it turned out that Maya did have a man with whom she was having an affair at the same time as she was married. Naturally, suspicion also fell on this man, because out of jealousy, he could have been involved in Maya's disappearance. But at the moment, he is free and has an alibi. Secondly, in the house where the family lived, they found a vial of poison, a very strong poison that could even kill a person. This means that Larry could very well have poisoned her. And the history of his internet searches shows that he looked up information about this poison, including what effects it can have on a person. During the subsequent investigation into Maya's disappearance, detectives discovered a small bottle with a stopper. Analysis of its contents revealed the same chemical compound found in poisonous hemlock. Plants that can be used to make hemlock are found all over San Diego, and ingesting them can cause vomiting, seizures, respiratory failure, and in some cases, death. On the Google account that was traced back to Larry, there were Google searches about the hemlock flower, its name conium, how painful a fatal hemlock poisoning is, and which poison is best for a quick death. The jury heard about the conium that was found in a vial in the house, but several previous searches had turned up nothing, since the vial was only discovered in October 2021. The FBI's analysis was a bit different from what had been announced. A total of 4 tests were conducted, and 3 of them came back negative or inconclusive, with only 1 test showing a positive result for conium. So additional tests were carried out, including DNA sequencing, and those revealed a different type, which turned out to grow near the plant from which hemlock is derived. The defense also argued that Larry didn't want his children to talk to the police. In reality, he tried to get them to talk, and even asked investigators to come to their home to do so, but they refused. Although Larry was a suspect from day one, Laird was repeatedly assured that he was not a suspect. Laird is the man who allegedly had an affair with Maya. Maya had the Keepsafe app on her phone to store photos and other personal information, and the information from this app was never extracted by law enforcement. As for the last signal from Maya's cell phone at 1:25 a.m., it came from the middle of Hunt Parkway Road. The prosecutor will say that the evidence did not meet the standards, said the lawyer, so investigators turned to another detective who conducted his own analysis and came to different conclusions. In his report, he claims that most likely she never left the house. Maya and Laird deleted their conversations in Microsoft Teams, as well as on Instagram and other apps, including Telegram. But the jury won't hear any of these messages because investigators never obtained them. For his part, Laird also never contacted Maya after January 8th. After the defense finished its opening statement, the prosecutors called their first witness, Destiny Johnson, who works as a paralegal at Broaden Law LLP, a law firm specializing in family law. At the preliminary hearing, Johnson told the court that Maya contacted her on January 7th. Johnson said she took down information from Maya about her intention to file for divorce, and added that Maya was afraid her husband would retaliate for contacting the firm and did not want to meet with the attorney in person. Johnson said that Maya also expressed a desire to move out of the family home. However, at that point, Judge Enrique Camarana requested a conference with the attorneys and instead decided to call a recess for the day to discuss the matter with the lawyers. The court hearing is scheduled to resume on Tuesday at 9 in the morning, presumably with Johnson's testimony. In May 2021, Maya's parents requested visitation rights to see the children. Larry refused and did not respond to further attempts at contact from the parents. By July, Maya's parents had filed an official petition for visitation rights, and a hearing was scheduled for December 2021. On October 19, 2021, custody of the couple's children was transferred to their paternal grandparents. During the preliminary hearing, Larry was prohibited from contacting his children to prevent further emotional harm. On Wednesday, October 27th, Marion Superior Court Judge Diadel Detsuo ruled that Larry had violated the restraining order prohibiting him from contacting his children by speaking with them during phone calls he made to his parents from jail. In total, he made more than 100 phone calls and spoke with his children for over 9 hours, during which he asked them to read him newspaper articles about his upcoming trial. As a result, Larry was only allowed to call his attorney. That same day, Maya's sister filed a petition for custody of the children and for their relocation to Moreno Valley, California. On Wednesday, November 10th, Judge Julia Craig Coletti granted Maya's sister visitation rights with the children, but allowed the paternal grandparents to retain custody so the children could continue attending their current schools in Chula Vista. A court-appointed guardian was also assigned to the children. By early December 2021, both Maya's sister and the paternal grandparents had filed for custody of the children. In mid-January 2022, visitation rights for the mother's side of the family were modified to allow the children to travel to Riverside County every other weekend. At the same time, the paternal grandparents' custody was extended at least until April 2022. In October 2022, Larry was allowed to communicate with his children in writing, but he was still prohibited from seeing them in person or speaking with them by phone. In June 2023, the paternal grandparents continued their custody of Maya and Larry's children. Meanwhile, the younger child was attending therapy, and the maternal family's visitation rights were modified to allow them to spend more time with the maternal family during the summer. In August 2023, the court appointed a guardian for Maya Millite's estate, including the house in Chula Vista. Maya's sister, Mary Chris, was granted custody of the children in August 2024. There are several facts in this case that can't be disputed. First of all, Maya was genuinely afraid of her husband and filed for divorce because he was completely unstable. Secondly, it was in the house where Larry and Maya lived that a vial containing a very potent poison was found. Although, if this were serious evidence, Larry would surely have made sure to hide it. But why keep such crucial evidence in the house, which is usually the first place to be searched? And thirdly, there's no way Maya left home voluntarily. And there are several factors that point to this. I'm almost certain that her husband is involved in her disappearance, but so far, they haven't been able to prove it. Although, I'm sure this case will be solved very soon. Most likely, Larry went to incredible lengths to hide the body and made it all look like a disappearance. By the way, Maya's body still hasn't been found, even though that would be a major breakthrough in the case, and it could answer a lot of questions. That's all for today, Freeze. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And I also want to thank you for watching until the end. See you soon, and goodbye everyone.